they're very good, but we need them too. So I don't know what we can do about that.
In the meantime, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that progress in the Middle East peace process could provide the momentum needed to end his country's long-running war with Russia. Speaking on the eve of his meeting with US President Donald Trump, Zelensky has stated that the same approach that helped curb conflict in the Middle East could work in Ukraine's favor as well. His remarks come as Trump agreed to hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Budapest, a move that Kiev hopes could revive diplomatic efforts to end the war. Meanwhile, Ukraine has also claimed that talks around potential US supplies of long-range Tomahawk missiles forced Russian President Putin to call his counterpart Donald Trump. Zelensky has also met with defense industry leaders discussing air defense systems and other weapons that could strengthen Ukrainian defenses, particularly against strikes targeting its energy infrastructure. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Gilbert. Dr. Rao, a lot to dissect over here. I'd go through this point by point. First, of course, Donald Trump's statements regarding the Tomahawks. He's now stated that the United States cannot deplete its own stocks. This is right in the aftermath of his conversation with Putin. You've pointed out that back-channel conversations are taking place where Russia has put in a very strong word that the supplies of Tomahawks could practically destroy relations between US and Russia. In light of this, what do you make of Trump's statement? Is this now an open indication to Zelensky that do not eye US Tomahawks?
Well, I think so. The Tomahawks themselves would not change the war on the ground. In that respect, everyone agrees. What the Tomahawks would do is to open the possibility of a nuclear attack on Russia, because Tomahawks are nuclear capable. Let's say in practice, 9 out of 10 Tomahawks fired at any sophisticated target country are destroyed in the air. One may get through, and that one may be carrying a nuclear weapon. For that reason, this has become utterly unacceptable to the Russians that Tomahawks be delivered to Kiev. In a sense, what Mr. Zelensky said, that the Tomahawks have forced the issue, he's completely right, but for the wrong reasons, which I assume we'll get into now.
Indeed, I was just coming to that as well. What do you make of Zelensky's spin regarding this? As you pointed out, he claimed that the Tomahawks have practically forced Russian President Putin to call his counterpart Donald Trump. What do you make of the optics of Zelensky's statement? Is this a bid to sort of save his own skin? Still try to convince the Americans to provide the missiles?
Well, it's a very, very good spin on very bad news for Mr. Zelensky. He is right. The Tomahawks delivery forced the issue. It forced Mr. Putin to abandon his great caution and his desire to act moderately and not to go to extremes. The Russians realized that this was the do or die moment, and they decided to do. To do, meaning to threaten the United States with opening a full-blown war on Ukraine, decapitating the political establishment in Ukraine, leaving the country in a state similar to Gaza. That was a very clear message, was received by Washington, and they have responded. So Mr. Zelensky is correct, but not in a sense that serves his purposes, because finally the end result is that in his meeting in Washington, he will be exposed to the Trump method of peacekeeping, which is to apply maximum pressure to both sides. Trump has already tried this unsuccessfully with Russia, and he's about to try it, and I believe he'll be successful because he has all the cards in his hands dealing with Zelensky. So he will apply maximum pressure to Zelensky, who will be obliged to follow Trump's recommendation and to conclude a peace with Russia on Russia's terms.
Indeed. Lastly, I wanted to understand from you with regards to this particular information that has come out. Zelensky has pointed out the landmark deal in the Middle East and has stated that the same approach that helped curb conflict in the Middle East could work in Ukraine's favor too. But the situation on ground between Russia and Ukraine is very, very different. You have two countries fighting each other, but Russia is also one of the most powerful militaries in the world. Then what do you make of Zelensky's statement and his understanding as far as calling for the same approach to be applied here as well? Because clearly that cannot be done.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. Your observation is spot on. And this has been the weak point in Mr. Trump's approach to the conflict. To think that anything he has learned from the Middle East is relevant to the Ukraine-Russia situation is nonsense. As you say, Russia is one of the most powerful countries militarily in the world, fourth largest economy in the world, and you cannot begin to compare that to a patch of now destroyed settlements in a desert that happens to be next to the Mediterranean. That's called Gaza, or to Israel, which is a very nice bully in its neighborhood, but is absolutely inconsequential in military strength compared to Russia. So the lessons from the Gaza war, if there are any lessons, are not applicable to the Russia-Ukraine war.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time, of course, sharing your perspective on these very, very crucial issues that are coming in as far as the war in Europe is concerned. We're in fact tracking some other further developments. We're now learning that Russian correspondent Ivan Zuyev, who's worked for the RIA, that is the state news agency, was killed by a Ukrainian drone strike while reporting from the front line in southern Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia region. Now, his colleague Yuri Voitkevich was seriously wounded in the attack as well. Zuyev, who received multiple state awards, was thanked earlier this year by President Putin for his work. Members of Russia's State Duma also praised Zuyev, with the International Affairs Committee Chair Leonid Slutsky claiming that Ukrainian forces are consistently hunting down Russian journalists. Now, since the conflict began in February 2022, at least 18 journalists have lost their lives. Meanwhile, in related news, the Donetsk People's Republic has stated that Ukrainian forces shelled its territory 3 times in the past 24 hours, wounding 1 civilian. However, this has not caused any damage to civilian infrastructure. With that, viewers, we're shifting focus away from Europe towards the United States of America. The Trump administration has promised to pay more than 70,000 Homeland Security law enforcement officers during the government shutdown, including agents from the ICE, CBP, the Secret Service, and TSA air marshals. This is according to a statement from the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem. Now, these employees will receive a super check covering all hours worked during the shutdown and the next pay period by the 22nd of October. This move shields these personnel who are carrying out key immigration and security priorities from financial hardships affecting many other federal workers during the shutdown, which began on the 1st of October. However, TSA officers staffing airport security checkpoints will not be paid. This is information coming in according to 2 government officials. Meanwhile, it remains unclear how the ICE and CBP will fund these payments since annual appropriations expired on the 30th of September. The shutdown has forced hundreds of thousands of federal workers to work without pay, while others face layoffs. A recent court ruling has temporarily blocked some of these layoffs, but we've seen Donald Trump earlier state that those working in Democratic-ruled states will face the brunt. With us on the broadcast is Ms. Shruti Das-Gupta, international affairs expert, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. It's the 17th day of the government shutdown in the United States of America, and we're now learning that a certain select officials, federal workers, will be paid by the Trump administration. But we've also learned that many others, including health officials, will now be laid off from their positions. Do you think Donald Trump is specifically targeting, as he's put earlier, those who are working in democratic states? And what could be the fallout of this? What sort of precedent could it set?
Well, greetings to you and your viewers. I would like to state that Donald Trump is doing a very calculated move. He is taking out money from the very department itself. So let's say if Department of Justice, if there's a research and development project of that particular department, he's repurposing the unspent money of that into paying out these workers. And because of the shutdown, they are no longer beholden by the laws and the purpose of the language that they're trying to use to ensure that people get paid. They have said that 2 months' pay, that's what I understand from the statement that has come out. The 2 months' pay will be paid off for this month and the month next on the 22nd of October, right as they hit into the 4th week of their shutdown. So I understand that what he's trying to tell you is that it's either my way or the highway. I will try and ensure that anybody who's doing the work that I want them to do, they will get their pay, they will have food on the table, and anybody who dares to oppose me or work against me while staying on government payroll shall kiss their paycheck goodbye. At least until the time they break this lockdown between the Democrats and Republicans and regular pay start flowing in. They have a 400 million per day expenses that they're trying to stave off. The government, of course, saves money, but it'll come off later. They'll have to pay it out in arrears. People are being laid off. Healthcare workers specifically being laid off is George to the Democrats because the Medicare issue, the healthcare issue is one of the points where they're trying to have Trump government commit to a certain set of expenses that Trump is not willing to bow down to. So it comes as a mix of political and personal vendetta both.
Indeed, and speaking of the economic policy at large, experts are warning that Trump's tariffs policies on one hand are increasing the prices of commodities, and on the other, this government shutdown could lead to a recession. What do you make of this double whammy? Could this then exacerbate woes for the average American?
Well, there were 2 reports that came out, I think, about a few weeks back. And both of them stated that although it is not in a recession as yet, but it is right at the brink of it, and they need to control their fiscal policies very fast, very soon, or else once US starts into that spiral of recession, it will not just take itself down, take a large part of the world economy down with it into that whirlpool of lost money. So that is one of the cautionary things that came out. The other one stated very, very clearly that by putting tariffs on nations that he does not hold in favor, does not really affect the host nation. It does affect trade because the goods become expensive, but expensive for whom? The American consumers. And the consumers end up paying more. You may try and fudge the reports. You may try and say that I am making billions. I am making billions. Is the American government making billions, not the American consumers? So for the common man, healthcare becomes expensive. For the common man, food becomes expensive, and now we have government employees struggling for money on the day of that they want to go and buy stuff. So it is a very sad situation that the normal American is looking at. Although there is a lot of narrative around it, they're going to try and the tourism is down. Education industry that is it's struggling because of all the visas and all the other policies they have put in. So we have to understand that America is reeling from Trump's very, very bad politics, and a large number of people from Trump 1.0 are telling you that he does not really understand foreign policies and the diplomacy and the fine print of it. He is dealing with nations as he would deal with competing companies. But that's not how diplomacy works. And somebody needs to whisper that in Trump's ears.
Indeed, this could snowball into a disaster. I request you to stay on with us, ma'am. You have, of course, spoken